Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum. Today is Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018. Welcome to everyone who is tuning in tonight. Hello, Matt. I seen you join us tonight. Long time no see, my friend. Good to see you in the chat. Let's take a look at solar wind conditions here at 336.3 kilometers per second with a density of 11.6. Now, this was part of that slightly elevated solar wind that we were going to get from that minor coronal hole. The sun is blank once again, putting us at 6 days now in a row without a sunspot, keeping our total at 93 days for the year of 2018, fastly approaching 2017's total of 104 days without sunspots. Question is, how many more are we going to get? Are we going to double this? Are we going to double this in a half? Are we going to be closer to 300? We'll see. Taking a look at our KP indices, is at a 1 right now with a 24-hour max of 2. And taking a look at the SDO, here is a series of coronal holes, minor disturbances in the corona. That is the stream that we were talking about that we are going through right now. And as we take a look at the SDO in motion, you will see that there is a very weak opening of a coronal hole that is coming around Earth facing now, very minor, just to the south region of the equatorial position. It may affect us, it may not, but right now we don't have any large coronal holes that will cause any issues with Earth's magnetic field. And for the time being, on the eastern limb of the sun, we look very, very quiet, so we could see an extended time without sunspots, as we had a very active time as well. Taking a look at our TSI readings for June 25th, 2018, we were looking at a 1360.7572, so kind of been consistent here lately in the 1360.7 rather. And I wanted to point this out before I get into some of the headlines here. Just scamming through and looking at what's up with that. Anthony Watts is a great page, but I've never give any credit here, but I was going through their solar page today, and what a collection of information that is available here, folks. Everything from the SDOs, different angstroms, taking a look at coronal hole activity, sunspot active regions as well, and the list goes on. And then it goes into what we normally show as well, the KP indices, the solar wind speeds from ACE. But where it gets impressive for me and gives me a couple of ideas as well, but I really appreciate the charts and graphs. Here we have TSI graphs right here, and there was one I really, oh yes, and the sunspots, the cycles, the way we put it out. And this should be a picture that we should look at every once in a while to kind of get a grip of what we're facing and what we're going through. And looking at 23 and 22, how it sort of close to came on the bottom and out part. 21, 22. So each cycle that you see here, you see we're getting closer. Look at this. 23 to 24 was right at the bottom. So we are now predicted, what, for 25 and 24 to also stay at that bottom, and how long? But this has so many graphs. Everything that you want to know about solar cycles, sunspots, real-time data on the sun. I have to say, hands down, bravo, Anthony Watts. What's up with that? This is absolutely well done. Very easy to follow information. And what I like the most, though, are the charts, the data that shows us what we're talking about. That way, you know, you want to direct people to proof of what we're talking about, to look at the real data time and the real-time data as well. Cosmic ray monitoring. I mean, just well done, well put together. Probably the best page, I think, right now for information on our solar conditions, solar weather, sunspot records, you name it. Very well put together. I'm done gushing about this, but I was really going through this today, and I think I'd seen this, you know, months ago, months ago, and I probably didn't understand as much as I do now. And I think it just kind of, just looking at it a second time, really blew my mind at how much information that they do have available. And the more you get into this, the more you'll understand this stuff as well. Take a look at some of our headlines. 16 killed, 92,000 evacuated after floods hit Guangxi, China. According to Xinjiao, 92,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes on June 30th and July 1st, 2018, after heavy storms started affecting the region, causing direct economic loss of about $450 billion. That's U.S. dollars. A number of multi-story buildings collapsed in the city of Base, the westernmost prefecture-level city of Guangxi, with a population of about 3.8 million. Heavy rain started falling across the region on June 20th. More than 124,000 people were affected, and nearly 2,000 were forced to evacuate, and at least 3 were killed by June 25th. About 1,000 homes were destroyed and damaged at the time of about, well, 14,000 acres of crops were destroyed, or damaged, I should say. Heavy rains also affected the Hunan province, where swollen Xiang River in the Chancharanga rose to record levels nearly 40 meters. That's 131 feet this week. Xiang is a major tributary of the Yangtze River. Nearly 10,000 people in several towns in this area were forced to evacuate. In other words, we have lots of rain, lots of flooding, once again in the headlines for us. And this just shows you how fast information travels. This stuff is dated from back in the beginning of June, and the watchers are just now getting around to getting the information out. And that's not a jab at them. It could be just because the information wasn't available yet. 3 major rivers above dangerous mark, 17 killed in floods. So 16 in Asia. Now we have 17 people killed. Hundreds of people were displaced after rain-swollen rivers started eroding embankments and inundating several settlements in the Tara region. Landslides hit several mountainous areas, while hundreds of homes and farmlands ended up in floodwaters. The heaviest casualties occurred in the counties of the Midwestern and the Eastern regions. At least 3 people died in the Banque rural municipality on July 2nd. Flood-related incidents, the police said, happened due to negligence, and also 3 people died in Ropa, another rural municipality, with 5 when a boundary wall just above their house collapsed and hit the kitchen. In separate incident, elderly woman died and her husband was injured when their house collapsed at Godwari municipality 9 on July 1st. And there's tons of course, YouTube video footage. I usually don't show these. Sometimes I do, just for a few quick seconds. See if this will load up for us here. It's not what I want to see. Alright, forget it. You guys can check it out. I'll leave the links in the description. I like the kind of videos that show us just the highlights of what's going on. I'm not a big, you know, that's one thing I like about Mari's editing skills for our videos for this channel when we do produce them, is that the video they're full of action. They're full of footage of the extreme event that we're covering. We try to cut out there's a minor intro into the beginning of these things, but we try to make the video as jam-packed as possible with highlights of the event. And some of these other channels are more interested in themselves and promoting themselves versus promoting the event. I don't really have a lot to say about this one right here. This is not going to be I'm going to read you this article. The reason why I put this up is just when you thought you've seen it all, and of course now I can't find the video from the USGS here on Kilauea, what we were looking at earlier. Lava nado, I believe they were calling it. And here we go. Here we go. This is it. Sorry, folks. I already watched it and I forgot you have to refresh this. So check this out. There is actually a whirlwind above where this lava is coming out of Fissure 8. Look at this. It's bad enough that we continuously seeing activity like this in Kilauea. And then you throw in what appears to be a lava nado, just sprawling the lava out in any direction that it pleases. I originally wanted to title this Kilauea Just Wow, because this is amazing to me. I've never seen footage like this before. I'm sure there might be others out there, but this has just been a remarkable event. Since this all started on May 3rd, 2018, here it is July 3rd. We are now into month number 2, and we're still showing you these amazing pictures from Kilauea. And here's another USGS small video. This is the collapse explosion event at... And if you guys notice, the vegetation here is not just the wind, but that's the ground shaking the vegetation. That's seismic activity there. That's not just the wind blowing right. At first I thought, well, that's just the wind, but then if you kind of look at the footage, you'll notice the ground is shaking some of this vegetation. Here it's kind of calm, and then it kind of picks up here just in a second. But I thought it was interesting to look at this footage here. You had wind blowing the vegetation around, but you also had seismic action that was kind of shaking the area as well. Leave the link in the description. You guys can check it out for yourselves on the Watchers. As always, they do an awesome job at covering worldwide weather and climate events that matter the most. And brr, it's about to get flipping cold, y'all. Now, at first it said South Africa, and I thought it was South Alabama because I wasn't aware that it's about to get flipping cold, y'all, was slang. In, yeah, we have fireworks going on, folks. Happy 4th of July Eve, by the way, to everyone. But it says here, the rain and the snow might be abating from Tuesday morning, but it's awake. We will be ridiculously cold conditions to set the chill to the country to the bone. It says, according to Rob Ansnell, the founder of Snow Report SA, who has been on the receiving end of dozens upon dozens of pictures of inclement weather as he views forecasts for the upcoming days, there will be the most incredible chill across the country. It is going to be ridiculously cold. But just how cold is that? According to South Africa Weather Service, temperatures were expected to drop well below 0 on Monday night. Also, they will see lows in the -2 region on Monday into Tuesday, and as low as -7. Interesting lingo how to describe how cold it's going to be in South Africa. It's going to be a ridiculously cold one. The most incredible chill across the country. Those cryptic South Africans, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there was reports about snow in South Africa, and we are finding those articles to be true. Not a lot, though. Not a lot. You have to dig for this. And here's a good article. This is on No Trick Zone. Great site. Another article talking about researchers have published 4 new papers this year showing that both tropical cyclone activity and intensity have declined over the past decades. The findings mean atmospheric scientists and policymakers will need to reassess positions on climate change and tropical storms. Now, we were very active last year. It caused a great deal of damage along the U.S. southeast coastline. Global warming alarmists move quickly to blame it on man-made CO2, which they say causes the planet to warm up and thus makes tropical cyclones more frequent and ferocious. Sorry. So here's what's wrong with that statement. Right off the bat, the global warmists out there want to tell you that the man-made CO2 is warming the planet, and they're looking at 2017 as, see, I told you so, hurricane season. And last year, going into this winter, we were told that there were several NOAA scientists and climatologists who were predicting a much more active hurricane season this year, at least the same as what we had last year. Now, I realize that we are only in July. We don't really start seeing the tropics and all that really heating up with major storms until around August, September. That's the peak of our season, September 1st, technically. But when I see comments like this, that we're going to see worse storms, we're going to see more frequency of these, and then we have articles like this, where we have one article that's showing data that says that we are actually declining in hurricane intensity and frequency. And here is the overall picture. Since 1900, there you have the graph that shows us, and continental U.S. landfalls and hurricanes. It goes up to 8. 2005, we had 2 of them. Now, Katrina was historic. Think about the storm surge, the widespread damage, the flooding, how long it took. It's still in shambles in certain parts of New Orleans. That storm, when you compare it to Maria or Irma or Harvey even, in the size, it doesn't even compare. Harvey was huge. Irma, Maria, they were all huge storms. Think about it. When Katrina hit in 2005, it wasn't nowhere near as big as Maria or any of these other devastating 2017 hurricanes, which, by the way, scientists are blaming those large hurricanes on global warming, but yet we were in the middle of warming, supposedly, in 2005. And these storms were a lot smaller in size, but yet they packed a way bigger punch. So looking at this graph right here, what definitely clearly shows is that we actually are declining on landfalls from major hurricanes. And look at the intensity. I mean, you have the one big one in 2005, which was Katrina. Look at 2010 to 2015. It was almost virtually non-existent. Just minor storms. So we look at the 1915, 1920 era, lots of storms, a lot more than what we're seeing right now from 2010 to 2015. Third scientific publication authored by Zhang in 2018, also appearing in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Letters, found that the mean frequency of western North Pacific tropical cyclones was about 18% lower over the 1997 through 2014 period compared to the 1980-1996. I want to point out that our peak warming was from 96 to 2015, okay? And we were actually lower on hurricanes and cyclones than we were in the 1980s through 1996, which we saw colder winters in that period than we did from 97 to 2014. Hotter summers as well. I mean, this is what we thrive here at this channel to do. When I got done reading this, I want you guys to do this too. Share this on Facebook or Twitter. This is proof, guys. This is more than proof. This is the real data. This ain't something that's just flubbed. These studies, the links are right here. If you don't believe me, click on the link. It'll take you right to the study. Every channel that I bring you guys, every website that I bring you guys, I will always bring you these papers. Look at this. These are official, guys. Links and everything. So when you got that annoying global warmist person that's trolling you on Facebook and they want proof, where's your proof? Where's your proof? And that's all they can say is, where's your proof? And then they talk about Al Gore a little bit. Go ahead and give them a link to one of my shows. Because every night we cover articles from websites like the No Trick Zone. What's up with that? Climate Depot. IceAgeInfo.now with Robert Felix. They all have links to all of their articles, to all their findings, to everything they write. When they talk about a study, that is in the description of that article. The real science, the real information. And we'll get more into that later too. Now, this article is huge. I mean, absolutely huge. Arizona Appellate Court has decided that hockey stick emails must be released. This is the hockey stick email information between Larry Moe and Curly. And if you don't know who that is, Man Bradley Hughes, basically. It says here that 1,763 days ago, on behalf of its clients, the Free Market Environmental Law Clinic asked the University of Arizona to hand over public records that would expose the world's genesis of what some consider the most influential scientific publication of the decade. The Man Bradley Hughes temperature reconstruction that looks like a hockey stick. The university refused. Now, before I continue reading, this is kind of the same thing that Scott Pruitt of the EPA wants. They want full disclosure of the process of how the information is absorbed and distributed. In other words, they want to know how they came up with this report. What I find very troubling about the fact that the university refused, and they filed several stays throughout the Supreme Courts, this was the most troubling thing. The university then asked the appellate court for a stay, arguing that once the documents were released, that the genie could not be put back in the bottle in the event the trial court's decision was reversed. Quote, that genie could not be put back in the bottle. Yesterday, a mere 6 days filing after the final legal brief on the motion for a stay, the appellate court issued a 7-word decision. Motion for stay pending appeal is denied. University of Arizona, you can no longer drag your feet. You have to produce these emails. The fact that you are quoted saying that genie could not be put back in the bottle, end quote, in the event the trial court's decision was reversed. What do you think that means, guys? Do you think that we're going to see this gray area in the email communications to help fudge the numbers to be where they should be according to their climate models? Is that the genie that won't be able to be put back in the bottle? Are we going to find out that what we've been saying on Grand Solar Minimum channel and other channels alike, that the temperature change has been very minimal? I've already proved that last night as well when I showed you guys June's lower troposphere temperature reading of a 0.21. I mean, we went up a whole 0.03, and it's summer here in the northern hemisphere. So, I mean, think about it. For June to only go up a 0.03, but last June we were at 0.22. So the last 2 years we've showed a cooling trend. But if you go back to 14, 15, and 16, our values in June were at a 0.33, a 0.30, and a 0.24 in 2014. So, clearly, the last 2 years, when compared to 14, 15, and 16, our peak of our max and heating periods, the end of our warming was in 16. And it's clearly represented now. So, in other words, it's time to put up or shut up. And more people are starting to demand transparency. And when you see quotes like this, that the genie could not be put back in the... In other words, he's saying is, look, you're going to expose the fraud of global warming, is what they're saying here, in my opinion. That's what they're saying. You're going to expose the global warming scam. Do you realize what you're doing? That's what that statement says to me. And the court says, we don't care. And Scott Pruitt is also EPA director, who says, I don't care. We want transparency. That's what they're... And that's why there's so many people out there trying to push Pruitt out. And I'll get to that too. Because they think, you know, he had someone go check on a price on a mattress on work hours. So he gave his aid workers a raise and promoted and got more jobs created in his... but they say that's abuse of his campaign money. He created jobs and gave his staffers raises for doing such a good job. You know, I have something to share for you guys on that too. You guys noticed the title. So good article here. Thank God we're starting to see this come up everywhere in the country right now, where transparency is coming out and big time. And here soon, the global warming alarmists are not going to have anywhere to hide. And if anything, I think a lot of these people, these organizations who knew they were lying, should have to go to court and figure out some kind of reparations for the taxpayers who paid for this over the past 20 to 30 years. Here we go. I'll let you see this, guys. Just watch this. If it'll load up. This is pretty. This is what Miss Sanders went through. Here in the New York Post, you know, this is all anti-Pruitt. These people here in the mainstream media really believe that Scott Pruitt doesn't care about our environment. He doesn't care about anything. But listen to what this lady says. Here, I'll shut up.
Meanwhile, you're slashing strong. I just wanted to urge you to resign because of what you're doing to the environment in our country. This is my son. He loves animals. He loves clean air. He loves clean water. Meanwhile, you're slashing strong business standards for cars and trucks for the benefits of big corporations. You've been paying about $50 a night to stay in a DC condo that's connected to an energy lobby while approving their dirty sands pipeline.
Dirty Sands. Thank you, David Suzuki. Cleaner.
Climate change and takes it seriously for the benefit of all of us, including our children. So I would urge you to resign before your scandals push you out.
Cowardly Pruitt had no response. He is companioned in 2 tax-paid security. Look, this is great. So they're going to attack Pruitt for having tax-paid security guards. Fled the restaurant before I got back to my seat. Our children's future is at stake. As citizens, it is our responsibility to confront corrupt and unethical and immoral government officials whenever we see them. This is bullshit. This is absolute horseshit. This woman, who is a snowflake, apparently, okay, she was spoon-fed Obamanomics and believes that this dirty oil, dirty sand, that Scott Pruitt is the evil, I'm going to take your tax money and put it in my pocket while I kill your children. The fact that she brings in her 2-year-old son into the conversation stating, my son likes clean air and clean water and, you know, you're killing my kid. We deserve someone that respects climate change and believes in it. I'm asking you to resign. This waitress snowflake is confronting an elected official of the United States government and telling him to resign because he doesn't believe in what she believes in. The balls on these people. And if you watch this video again, you'll see that someone put her up to this. She was paid. Okay, she just had the balls and she wanted to be on camera. She thought she'd be cute. Everybody's hating on Trump, so let's keep it going, right? That's what the mainstream, that's what the New York Post wants to do. This is not defending Scott Pruitt. The title says Scott Pruitt becomes the latest Trump official to be harassed at a restaurant, so I thought maybe they're aiding him, but this video is calling Pruitt a coward because he had no response. Do you want to know why he had no response? It's not that simple. We don't have a celebrity ex-politician who's standing up on grandstands all over the world and making millions of dollars off of a lie about man-made global warming, predicting that hurricanes would be worse and they're going to get worse every year and it's going to get hotter every year, and none of that's happening. In fact, if you look at what happened in 17 and compare it to this year so far, we've seen a definite decrease in tropical storms in the Atlantic Ocean. That's obvious. No kind of business right now in the Atlantic Ocean. And you won't have any business in the Atlantic Ocean when you have record cold temperatures almost everywhere except for the middle region of the Atlantic Ocean. But people like the New York Post are going to print trash like this and allow people to call Scott Pruitt a coward because he had no response. Scott Pruitt has class, first of all. He's not going to sit there and challenge or debate some uneducated... I'm sorry, I'm not calling her uneducated because she's a server. I'm calling her uneducated because of the things that she said to Pruitt about dirty sand pipelines and all that crap. She has no idea what she's talking about. The people of the EPA and other Trump cabinet members are looking at the same information that we are looking at, and they're making the best decisions now based on the real science, the real information. That's why they're fighting for transparency. These global warmists, all their money, their funding, their grants, it all is relying on how long they can keep this lie alive. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow someone from a global warmist group caught wind that he was in this restaurant and they sent one of their workers over to confront him on a camera real fast. Because I've seen the Craigslist ads for companies hiring college-educated students or people that are in college to be hired to help educate the public about man-made global warming. They're real. These jobs are real, and they start off at $500 a week. Now, what college student do you know would not like to have a job making $500 a week going out and talking to the public about something that's basically it's a cult-like brainwash? I didn't mean to yell into the mic. I just, this infuriates me that people like this is actually catching fire. What happened to Sarah Sanders now happening to Pruitt? Who's next? Is this really what America is? We go up to elected officials who are qualified to be where they're at, who actually have the real information, not this waitress. I'm embarrassed for her, actually. I hope this video goes viral and people point out how dumb this whole movement is. This public getting in front of these elected officials like they're going to make a difference. I just wanted to urge you to resign because of what you're doing to the environment in our country, she says. And then they spoke to her. We spoke to the Post. The 33-year-old mom from Silver Spring, Maryland, explained that her husband pointed out Pruitt, and her reaction was, he's the worst. He's the worst. Scott Pruitt is the worst. He's so terrible. He's actually telling the truth. He's fighting for transparency of how we get to these results. He literally said nothing. He had no response. He had no defense. He had no apology. He did not explain, nor did he deny. That's because he doesn't have to explain anything to you. His actions will take that, okay? What they're doing, if you pay attention to what's actually happening in our government right now, you would know what's happening. You know what he's doing. But you choose to listen to the garbage, the mainstream bullshit, the New York Post, and I'll tell you something right now. The Washington Post is just as bad. Two trash rags, the New York Post and the Washington Post. Red Hot Planet all-time heat records have been set all over the world during this past week. And they go on to list off, here's Denver, Burlington, Montreal, Ottawa. Now, it's funny to me that they list one American city as part of this record-breaking heat wave. It tied it. It didn't even break it. But yet this headline says records have been set But the one here in the U.S. says it's been tied. I'm sorry, 2 U.S. cities. Burlington, Vermont's low was 80 degrees. The highest low temperature ever recorded. It was humid out. My gosh. Excessive heat. Scotland, Glasgow, Ireland. Yeah, we know. It's been hot. It's summer. It's July. It's funny to me how we get one hot 4 or 5 days in one part of the world, and the global warmists run out. And it's kind of what Dr. Roy Spencer was pointing out here in this article. I'm going to read a little bit of this here. Summers in the U.S. are hot. They always have been. Some are hotter than others. Speaking as a PhD meteorologist, which should mean something, by the way, folks. This guy is a PhD, Dr. Roy Spencer. With over 40 years' experience, this week's heat wave is nothing special. Now, a 40-year experienced PhD meteorologist is saying that this heat wave is nothing special, but yet you go over here to the Washington Rag, and hey, it is all-time heat records have been set all over the world during this past week, and I want to show you something. They don't blame global warming, but they blame global warming. And I'll show you the comment that says it. Sorry about the scrolling up and down, folks. No single record in isolation can be attributed to global warming, but collectively these heat records are consistent with the kind of extremes we can expect to see in an increased warming world. Increase in a warming world, says the Washington Post. And then you go over here to Climate Depot, and we've got Dr. Spencer, who is very, very educated, very experienced. Breaks it down right here, guys. This is a graph that shows the amount of 80-degree days in the month of June. You can see where we are right now on the graph. If this is through 2017. It's clear to show, guys. There was a spike in 05, it looks like. It's been pretty, not up and down. Here is what I wanted to show you guys. This is the map that Roy Spencer shows, and this is the map that the Washington Post shows, guys. Look at this. Look at the United States in the Northwest region. Okay? And then you go to Roy Spencer's page, and he shows that same heat dome. But we also have some below average temperatures in the Northeast, and I've watched the Weather Channel. I've seen the highs. They're in the 70s. Seattle had a high. Their temperature this morning was in the low 50s. 68 degrees, according to my friend Rob out there in Washington. 68 degrees. July 2nd. Yes, it's hotter than dog balls out here in the Northeast. But we will see some relief here by Friday. Well, dog balls are pretty hot, so don't question my authority. Well, I did. I'm just messing with you, Mari. I love you. But no, seriously, guys. Who's telling the truth? Is the Washington Post telling the truth? Maybe. Let's take a look. I don't see any graphs or any charts. Oh, here's one that they stole from a guy on Twitter. It's showing the 24-hour. Okay. Well, they show us here how the high pressure dome. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, another anomaly map. That's good. That's it. That's it. All right. Well, let's see here. Let's see. What has Roy Spencer got? That's a nice little anomaly. Ooh, that's a good little graph. Lots of links here. Oh my. Well, let me go ahead and say that. Yeah. I think I'm going to go ahead with the guy who's a 40-year meteorologist with a PhD. Guys, he's breaking it down right here. Look. Point blank. I mean, all you have to do is look at this. What goes up must come down. What goes up must come down. We are not continuing, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but you know, technically, I see deeper drops, deeper declinations here on these charts. This one wasn't that deep. This one was. How deep is this next one gonna? How far are we gonna plunge? How come the Washington Post or the New York Post don't post articles that are full of graphs that really you can look at and make up your own mind? I don't know. It just blows my mind. So here's the winner, Dr. Roy Spencer. Not based on my recommendation, but based on the fact that he's always been straight up. Look, he even says here, and I don't agree with this guy all the time. I want to read what he says, because it shocked me a little bit. Let's see. I hate dead air, and okay. Am I claiming that there's no such thing as human-caused warming? No. I'm claiming that it's overblown. We already know the climate models, which are the biases for proposed much of the warming, and also changes in energy policy to get us away from fossil fuels. They're producing generally twice as much warming in the atmosphere ocean system has been observed. The most recent energy budget analysis of the surface and deep ocean warming suggests that the climate system is only half as sensitive to our CO2 emissions as you're being told. So, out of all the people who follow a cooling trend or natural cycles, this is the first guy I've actually seen that actually claims, yes, we are not in global warming, and man-made is not the issue here, but he is admitting that there is a small, and it's a very small attribute towards the climate, what man does. It is nothing like the mainstream here over at the Washington Post will tell you. These guys are sensationalists. They're a news agency. They look to profit. They put words in their titles to help get clicks and advertisements and all that good stuff. And that's what they're good at. Meanwhile, people like Dr. Roy Spencer, he gets to go testify to the Senate and special committee hearings because of the information that he has compiled. That's why this is all starting, guys. People like Roy Spencer has been talking to people like Jeff Sessions knows who Spencer, and I'm not a Jeff Sessions fan, but I'm just telling you, Sessions has been around for a while. Spencer is respected by the Senate. Sessions was one of his friends, I guess. But one of the hearings that he attended, Sessions was supposed to be there, wasn't there. But I found it interesting that they had a Republican-based Senate committee that was actually taking the time to listen to this. Democrats didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to listen to it. But it's because of guys like him that are starting to make people more skeptical about man-made global warming. All right, I'm ranting too much here. I need to get going. I apologize here, guys. And just another article I wanted to point out as well. I know this is a late one. This was back from June 21st. Another Russian tanker is stuck in the ice near the Arctic port. There's two of them right now. All I want to read is this bottom paragraph down here at the bottom. It says, the global warming, which there has been so much talk about for such a long time, seems to have receded a little, and we are returning to the standards of the 1980s and the 1990s, says the company's representative. This is the company that is representing these tankers that are stuck in the ice. These people said this is the first time they've seen this much ice this late in the year in this region in 4 years. To them, that's quick to see record-breaking ice in that region that close together. Just 4 years ago, they had this kind of ice. And for this representative to make the statement that it appears that the warming has receded, again, I wish these articles, you know, this article here, the Barents Observer. Why isn't this somewhere Fox News, ABC News, CBS News? Why? I hope it is. People need to pay attention to stuff like this. These little tiny little paragraphs here. Disclosure has slowly come out. And thanks to Mr. Felix, once again, he's the guy that kind of pointed me in that direction as well. Let's take a look at our current radar here in the U.S. I'll go ahead and refresh this. See if we have any progression. We have that tropical depression system that is soaking the eastern part of Texas and the western part of Louisiana. Some showers and thunderstorms moving across Georgia into Mississippi and Alabama. Or Alabama and Mississippi, I should say. And a line of showers trying to develop across the Midwest, and those will be heading towards the Northeast by Thursday, which will bring us relief. Montana, by the way, they're getting some action right now in their region. And also wanted to show you here, NOAA, we have 2 areas of interest right now. This is as of 8 p.m. This has a 20% chance of formation in the next 48 hours. And also a 20% chance of formation in the next 5 days. But this storm right here is going to be traveling into warmer weather, or warmer waters, I should say, into the mid-Atlantic. And I'm talking about this storm right here. The first one here, I didn't show you guys. Sorry about that. This is the one that we're looking at the 20/20 chance of development. This one right here in particular, we are looking at a chance of 50% development within 5 days. And that's because the expected track of these storms, or this one right here, is going to be taken up into the mid-Atlantic. And this is the area where the Atlantic Ocean is warm right now. It's like the only area of the Atlantic that is warm. And I'll show you that here just in a second. Actually, I'll just go ahead and do that now. So here is the North Atlantic. It's dropped to a new low since we started watching this decline. We are now at a negative 0.887. The Gulf of Mexico, slightly above baseline at 0.136. It's up and down. The South Tropical Atlantic, it's been very erratic. It's now trending back down to 0 on the baseline. It's dropped over a ½ degree Celsius in just the last several days. And then we look at the East Tropical Atlantic SST. It's also at the bottom at 1.5 below baseline. Recently has jumped up to a full degree in just 4 or 5 days, but is now trending back towards 1 degree below baseline. And the Caribbean has been all over the place too. We saw that huge jump, huge decline. Now we're looking at another rather large inclination of the temperature, still below baseline for July 3rd. You know, got to keep our eyes on this. Here's the Atlantic MDR, also below baseline, looking at right around negative 0.833, pretty close to what we're looking at in the North Atlantic. So I think I proved my point. Yeah, it's hot right now. It's summer. When Dr. Roy Spencer writes an article and says that this heat wave is nothing special, and he shows us why, I believe him. And look at all the green and yellow that we're seeing in the Northwest. Again, the Washington Post won't put all that. Now, we are going to heat up. I'm not saying that we're going to get cool again here. I'm saying that there are regions that will heat up off and on throughout the summer. Look at in the areas near Newfoundland, Canada. You see a lot of 50s and 60s there. I mean, it's going to be hot in regions. It's going to be cold in others. This is a run all the way through this weekend, through Sunday. And temperatures here in the Northeast, by the way, guys, we're going to be talking about highs in the upper 70s from Friday through Sunday here in Buffalo, New York, and most of the Northeast. So we will experience much cooler weather, but it will get back to summer-like conditions later next week as we head into the July 10th part of the month. Temperatures are about average. Nothing shocking, nothing record-breaking. In my opinion, we're looking at a lot of places with mid-80s and some low 90s, but in areas where we're typical of seeing this kind of action. As far as precip goes, we are starting to see a slight warm-up in some of the oceans. The Western Pacific, or the Eastern Pacific, has been active all year long. As far as the Atlantic goes, we're in a wait-to-see mode right now. And here we are on the 4th. And if you guys take a look at this system right here, that's where they think there might be a chance of development. But look at that little low-pressure system there. A nice little rotation going on there. But we've shown this pattern over and over again, and showers and thunderstorms will continue to trek across the Northeast, the Midwest, into the southern part of the United States, push off with that cold air front coming through, and it's going to be refreshing for a few days, but it's also going to create rain chances in the far south. And as we get through this weekend, back to normal work hours after the 4th of July holiday, we will start to see a more wet pattern forming in the south in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama and Florida, where it looks like they get continued chances of rain. And it makes you wonder, each day we see an increased chance. Look at this. We got 2 systems here. Wow. Let's stop this real quick. On the 11th of July, take a look at this. Watch this region right here, folks, as we go through. This is definitely something to watch. These both appear to be away from the coast right now, which is good news. But just impressive to see such late development. And here we are by the 9th. And it's this moisture that's feeding up through the tropics around the Gulf, and then 2 systems just immediately appear on the 10th. Pause it one more time. Here we go. These are the 2 storms I'm talking about. Racing off into the North Atlantic, where guess what? They will die instantly, and as you see here in the forecast model, they quickly fade away. Why is that? Cold water. Those storms will not be a threat whatsoever. They form in the warmest part of the Atlantic, which is to be expected, but they sure died as soon as they got in that northern Atlantic waters. I mean, I hope when I communicate to you guys on these shows, I hope that I'm doing it in a way where it makes sense. It's layman's terms. I'm connecting the dots. I'm showing you the proof on why we're not seeing the hurricanes, on why temperatures are changing. I'm showing you who's lying and who's not lying. I'm showing you the actual data from actual PhD, 40-year experienced meteorologist versus a trash rag like the Washington Post that just wants to toot their own horn and create hysteria because, oh my God, we have a heat wave in summer. It can't be. In the middle of July, it's hot. All right. So how's everybody doing tonight, Mari? Everybody getting along?
Everyone is thoroughly enjoying you, Jake.
Oh boy. Well, I do apologize. Hopefully I haven't offended anyone except, well...
You know what? Your rants are justified and highly entertaining, and everyone is in agreement with you. I'm sure there's going to be some really, like, liberal people
Good.
that just are just like, Jake, you're getting too political and all that.
I don't care.
You know, it needs to be said. If you zoom out and if you are objective and you look at the facts, you will understand. Plain and simple.
I mean, you could also sit there and say, well...
I also lost my battery, and I can't get in the chat.
Well, you could also say, too, that you have people out there who say, well, you're making it political, and they don't want to hear about the politics. Guys, face it, okay? If Trump gets his way on the Supreme Court justice system, okay, with the pick, he's one guy away from overturning the Massachusetts versus the EPA decision in 2007 that was voted 5-4 that CO2 was a pollutant. And with the new Supreme Court justice pick, that could be changed. So that's why I say you can't say it's you can't get political because, and here's the thing, this is why I'm really fighting hard on this too. I want to make sure not only that I explain that it is political and that it's as easy as switching your Supreme Court judge, but with that decision, I also want to present the evidence that is being used to help the president and his staffers to make these decisions on why they're guys, come on. I mean, there's a reason why. It's not because they want to get rich off of oil and dirty coal and all that other crap we hear about, Suzuki and all them, and that snowflake waitress that confronted Pruitt. And you know what, Pruitt, you're my hero for not even saying nothing. You don't owe her an explanation for her to come up to you, and ruin your dining experience, interrupting your personal time. You're not paid to deal with some snowflake waitress who thinks you should resign because your policies don't reflect her beliefs in man-made global warming. These people sound ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, we need to do something about the mental health care in this country, because a lot of these folks, I believe, are mentally ill when they talk about global warming and asking people like Pruitt to resign. And then they do the witch hunt thing with him and try to pick about, oh, well, he gives raises and created new jobs, and he asked one of his staffers to go check out a mattress price on company hour. Get over it. Are you kidding me? There's a lot more have done a lot worse, and I'm not saying that makes it okay, but this is minor compared to some of the problems that at least we don't have someone like Maxine Waters out there telling people, inciting violence, and telling citizens to, if you see these Republicans out and you interrupt their dinner, you interrupt their time with their family, you scare their family, you tell them how you don't want them, you know, it's almost like they don't care about the damage. What if Pruitt had children there with him? People need to zoom out and think about other people as humans first before they just go on their soapbox and, you know, do their political thing. The girl had notes. She was obviously paid to do it. It's disgusting. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. I appreciate you sitting through the rants. I had a lot to talk about. Some of this stuff really angered me. I know that Pruitt thing really set me off, but we hope you got something out of the video. All the links to everything we discussed tonight will be in the description. Join us tomorrow at some point. It may be an afternoon show. It is the 4th of July, so we may take the day off as well. But I'm sure if I find enough to talk about, you guys will see me tomorrow. We'll try to get an announcement out as early as we can. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk soon.